All right, so hang out is on there or
I
something.
felt so bad for him.
Cool.
Man thing.
Felt bad for me. I like how he
Yeah,
tries to play it off with comedy, though. That's my favorite. Like pretty much my favorite part of the issue.
me too.
All right. Let's not be loud, ladies. All right, here we go. Ready?
Read it.
Gonna do my clap so I know where to cut. Okay. How we doing, Weird Science? This is Brandon. I'm coming at you guys along with Trevitt for the Marvel Minute of this week. Week of what? What's comic week this week?
Yep.
3/8/2017.
March 8th.
Winner of our vote, which I keep meaning to extend beyond 24 hours, but in my rush while DJing, I always forget, was Man Thing #1. We got writer on the issue of R.L. Stine of Goosebumps fame, and then an art team of Jermaine Peralta and Rochelle Rosenberg as color artist. That's obviously published by Marvel Comics. And we'll get into the blurb here before we spit our bit about Man Thing #1. I can sum up what I know about Man Thing in less than 30 seconds of reading. First I know for a fact is that he used to be a man, which brings me to the second and last fact I know about the character, which he is now indeed a thing. My point being is I know next to nothing, and yet for some reason this title grabbed my attention, mostly because of the pairing with the character and R.L. Stine. I can't read today. I just probably misread about 4 words in that little blurb that so I'm having issues. But anyway, let's see how Mr. Stine of Goosebumps fame again and his first foray into the Marvel Universe goes here, shall we? So what were your initial impressions here, Trevor? I know you weren't really looking forward to this
I was
choice of the
I was
people.
I was definitely not looking forward to it at all. But
I actually was the opposite of you, but go ahead.
I was with all things with low expectations. The results were very fruitful. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Like when I opened it up, I didn't expect the art to be as good as it was, and I was a little confused at first because like the first page, I wasn't quite clear on what was like going, like if it was like a real battle, you know.
Yeah, well, we'll save the spoilers here, and we're going to get
Yeah,
into
yeah.
that. Uh,
But I
so
liked it a lot.
actually, yeah, I mean, I opened up the first page, and I was hoping for, in typical Marvel fashion, kind of like a couple paragraphs, real quick, giving me
Yeah.
a little history on a Man Thing. But they give you like 2 or 3 lines here that is pretty much the 2 or 3 lines that I gave you at the beginning. He is a man, and he is a thing. So I just turned the page there and continued on. And right away they suck you in kind of with a semi-cold opening, um, with just a monster fight. Something Marvel's been doing a lot lately on the heels of Monsters Unleashed. I think that's what it's called, right?
Yeah, Monsters Unleashed, which is actually quite enjoyable.
Okay. Yeah, I like the first issue, but that's not something I was gonna. I have enough comics to read. I'm not gonna add Monsters Unleashed to that pile, regardless of how
Yeah,
good it is.
especially because it leads into a series. Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, I've played that game with them for the last couple of years. They're not getting me on Monsters Unleashed, that's for sure.
And you know what? It's
Um,
another Inhuman vehicle on top of that. So
yeah, I know. Well, anyway, Man Thing is squaring off against a giant centipede monster in a fight that he looks to be thinking um, he's not going to do well in. So you kind of get the idea off the bat that he's either doubting his abilities or he's been out of practice for a while. Um, is that what you understood from it? He's like thinking to himself, "This doesn't really look good, right?"
yeah, yeah. I can't get close enough to snap this big book. But yeah, I mean, when I first opened it up, he seemed to have like a good amount of self doubt, which is a theme throughout the issue, like self doubt and a little bit of self loathing,
Yeah,
of what he is.
yeah, perfectly summed up there. Anyway, the creature ends up striking out against Man-Thing, and Man-Thing quickly counters that attack, and then he brings the pain down on this centipede creature in the form of his foot. And then at this point, we kind of get our first surprise of the issue when we find out the creature goes from regular giant centipede to human centipede.
Four dudes.
When he scatters, yeah, all these guys come crawling out of this centipede. And then you find out the twist for real is that Man-Thing is kind of starring in like a horror movie or like a horror TV show, it seems like.
Yeah, like his own Man-Thing movie.
Yeah, the director screams cut. Yeah, and that's pretty much how the issue starts. That's where the credits pick up right there. It says a different direction. And obviously, you know, we got Man-Thing in a movie.
I also love that the narration, instead of it being like an inner dialogue of the character, it's an actual narration. So
yeah,
it's not the character. Like I imagine it with like somebody else's voice, like a Morgan Freeman or something, telling the story while the story's going on.
Yeah, we would need Eric for this part. What's the guy's name that narrated the Thriller video?
Vincent Price.
Yeah, that's the voice I'm picturing narrating this book here.
Actually, that would be pretty
Especially
awesome.
when we get to the middle pages. Yeah, like that's the voice I honestly thought in my head. You know, I'm like, oh, this would be cool with a Vincent Price, you know, overlay on the narration. Page past the cut of the director, and we see that Man-Thing is being summoned into the office of his studio director, whose name is Heck Haywood. We also find out Man-Thing's real name is Ted Salas, and he prefers to be called Ted to Man-Thing.
Great.
Yeah, which makes, you know, a little sense. Anyway, Heck Haywood drops the bomb on Man-Thing, and basically tells him that focus groups are not liking this Man-Thing gimmick they're trying out, basically, and he's frightening the children. And my question to you, Trevitt, is what goddamn horror TV show are they making for children?
I know. That's a good point right there. I guess it's not. I guess they sent out what he has done so far to like focus groups, and the adults don't give a crap, and the kids are frightened. So there's really no demographic for poor huge Man-Thing, you know.
Yeah, and first of all, the kids would not be frightened. You have to pretty much lock your TV down to keep these kids nowadays from watching Walking Dead. So I have a feeling they would be all about a Man-Thing fighting giant centipede creatures on cable TV if that was an option. You know what I'm saying?
Most definitely. Like little kids love gross things, and they love to see things get destroyed. Like it would be right up a child's alley. But
yeah.
Not to mention the mild manneredness of Man-Thing himself. Like the way, like his harmless eye, like he just, like, even though he's a hulking mass of a thing, he looks like a really soft, gentle, nice guy, you know.
No, they do. You know, he's an ugly mother effer. My kid's awake. I'm not allowed to swear right now, so I might sound foolish a few times today. But regardless, they do a good job of showing emotion for a dude that just looks like he has a nasty ass mustache hanging in front of his face and just giant glowing red eyes. You know,
they really do. They use the eyes as like a window for his emotion, and it works. Like the artist does a great job conveying it.
Yeah, because basically Man-Thing is being fired here, and you see the emotion written all over his face. Like, no, I don't want this to happen. You know,
especially the panel with the chalice. Like it's the last little frame at the bottom right, like where you see his reflection in the cup. He looks so sad in that reflection. Yeah. Like,
I know, but basically Man-Thing, in an effort to save his job, offers to do some stylistic changes to his look, but I don't know what he can do. Trim the top, I guess.
He's like, maybe I can get a good stylist. He's like, maybe add a little bling. Like,
it was funny. But the boss man, Heck Haywood, I his name is confusing the shit out of me.
Caleb.
He decides, no, Man Thing, we're just moving on. We're going in our separate directions, and Man Thing's kind of going through his brain like, oh, this is not good. I've spent all my money to get out here. He's obviously in California, Burbank. He's being sent home with nothing to show for, his risk on his end. So he's broke, and they're not even giving him like a plane ticket or anything. They're validating his parking. I mean, he doesn't even have a goddamn car,
Flip and get them out of the studio. There's so many great things on this page too, like where he's like, some people threw up in their seats. You made them sick, Ted. Like,
yeah,
and then the whole Ant-Man thing.
He's all pissed at Ant-Man because Ant-Man has the jet, so they won't give him the jet.
Yeah. It's like Ant-Man, that no talent bug. Like, it was just too great. It was so good.
Yeah. So Ted gets sent out to the streets. His parking is validated, but he has no car to get in. Nope. Get in for that validation. And as he's walking through the streets of Burbank, he's basically drawing attention wherever he goes. And while he's on the inside not taking things very well, on the outside he is basically making jokes to the people who make comments at him.
Yeah.
This little kid is like, "Mommy, what the heck is that?" And he's like, he's like, "Really, kid? For as good as I look on the outside, I'm ugly on the inside."
Yeah, deep down, I'm very ugly.
Yeah. So he's trying to brush it off with a little like comedian type humor, but on the inside he's crying really. He's a lot like Jim Warner in that respect.
Like, I make the Hulk look like Brad Pitt.
So as he's walking through the streets, one of his thoughts basically reminds him of a former time and how he's turned into Man-Thing.
Yeah,
in Act 2, we essentially get a quick rundown of the Man-Thing origin, and now I've figured out why they didn't give us 2 paragraphs on Man-Thing's origin in the beginning of this book, Yeah,
because they planned on just hashing out the story for us, which normally would in a 5-issue mini might be a little bit of a bummer when they could have did it in the paragraph at the beginning, but R.L. Stine just, he had me in this issue. Like, I didn't care what he was doing next. I just loved what he was doing. I was really happy to see this origin story. I mean, at the same time, not many people know the origin of Man-Thing, so it was nice to see it unfold here,
Right. So this is obviously my first foray into a Man-Thing book. It's not something Marvel usually publishes. And it's not even something I've ever gone deep in on the Marvel Unlimited app to like find a little history about. But what I did do is kind of see how this story origin that we get matches up with like the Wikipedia version available online, and it's essentially a scene for scene recap. So what happens is, Ted is kind of a scientist that's been hired by S.H.I.E.L.D. to try and replicate the Cap serum to make super soldiers. Things start, going pretty well as far as tests with the serum, I guess. But Ted figures out bad guys are trying to also obtain the serum, so he destroys all evidence of it, kind of memorizes the formula, and tries to run away with the only sample, I guess.
Like kicking the door to his cabin and try to rob him.
He's escaped with his girlfriend, and what we find out is that his girlfriend, from being neglected by Ted, has sold him out to AIM, and AIM people have arrived on the scene to, obtain the formula from Ted.
Actually, I think it was all a setup.
Yeah, well, his girlfriend set him up because she sold him out to AIM.
Yeah,
that's essentially what is going on here.
I think she got with him because he was doing this, because she's like, did you really think I was interested in you? Yeah, I think that's the way it's played off here, but the traditional origin of Man-Thing is like this was a relationship between these two. So I don't know which one is real, which one is not, but just comparing the two, it looks like, she
she played him in this comic book, but traditionally it's more of like his fiance is sick of being ignored, and
because of his science and like a Reed
yeah,
Richards
yeah,
kind of thing. Yeah.
like he's dived into this work too deep, and she sells him out because either way, he runs away, injects the serum into himself to avoid the bad guys obtaining it and getting it in their possession, and goes crashing into the swamp, basically dying. When the energies of the swamp kind of save his life and combined with this serum injected into his body, turn him into Man-Thing.
Yeah, the skin starts to fall off, and then he starts to like.
Yeah, it looks pretty gross.
It does, but it looks great though.
Yeah, it does. It looks cool and gross, and he combined with the swamp energies comes out emerging as a giant swamp creature known as Man-Thing, and extracts revenge on the bad guys that were after him. Basically takes them down, and then we flash back to present day.
He picks up that truck
and him
throws
walking
it in
the streets of yeah. Those dudes aren't being saved by the swamp energies.
No, definitely not.
So once the flashback ends, we kick back to Burbank, California, and Man-Thing having his existential crisis, I guess you can say, his midlife crisis. Few kind of points that I guess I failed to bring up were Man-Thing has his wits about him, and kind of his memories at this point, which is not something that he usually has. And he kind of mentions it's been a lot of hard work to get to that point.
Yeah, he had to learn how to speak again and learn, figure out who he was. But I guess that came at a cost, which is what's coming up.
Yeah, we haven't really found out what that is yet. But as he walks through these streets, he kind of comes across his reflection in the mirror in like a storefront, and he looks behind himself and kind of sees himself.
I'm laughing because I went.
He's like, "What the?" Yeah, he's like, "What the hell is going on?" He's like, "Impossible! My eyes must be playing tricks on me." Turns around and he's looking another version of a Man-Thing dead in the eye, and he says kind of something funny as hell. He goes, "Hey, handsome, where'd you come from?"
I love his the humor, his humor. I love it. Like,
he's super sarcastic. Yeah. He's just it's a real dry sense of humor. You know what I'm saying? It's my type of dude. Man-Thing 2, the quote unquote bad Man-Thing, I guess you could call him, just screams right back in Man-Thing's face after that joke. So obviously Man-Thing knows what that means, and these two begin slugging each other. So we got a fight breaking out between these two on the streets of Burbank, California.
So a brawl, like a knockdown, drag-out brawl.
Burbank's in California, right? I'm not being a geographical idiot here, right? America.
Yeah,
okay.
Burbank's in California. I think it's like a.
That's where Price of Right is filmed, isn't it?
Oh yeah, most stuff is actually filmed in Burbank. Burbank is where all the studios are. So that's where
or is Price of Right, The Price is Right is filmed in Florida or is in California?
No, I think you're right. I think it's Burbank. I think it's in Burbank.
Okay.
Because that's where all the major studios are. So it's a section of like Los Angeles, like outside of Hollywood and Silver Lake. Like Los Angeles is so big that they have their own towns within the cities. Like
yeah.
So it's kind of crazy.
I've seen pictures of traffic. I never want to go there.
No, my friend Darwin lives there.
Sorry to any Los Angeles listeners. I live in Buffalo. I really shouldn't be talking shit about anything, but
yeah, I live in Rhode Island, so
I don't want to go to your city because your traffic looks like to be a nightmare.
Los Angeles is the size of my state, so
yeah, Delaware.
Well, Rhode Island is the size of Los Angeles. So.
Yeah, I don't know why when they were splitting America up, they didn't make all those like mini ocean states on the East Coast just one giant thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, I never understood that.
Like Rhode Island could have been a part of Massachusetts or Connecticut. Well, what happened was there was a guy named Roger Williams who didn't really like what was going on in Massachusetts. So they used to call Rhode Island Rogue Island because he came here and started his own thing. So that's how this place happened. But
There you go, Toby. American history for you. Anyway, we wrap this up. Man Thing. He comes to the realization, basically, while he's slugging this other Man Thing in the face, that he's fighting a mindless past version of himself, which must basically have something to do with why he has his memories back and his wits about him. Maybe he's separated himself into two different entities somehow. I bet you it has something to do with this nexus of the swamp stuff
It's
that
kind
I
of
know
like
very little about right now.
kind of like an Adam Warlock thing. Like he's like the man Ted. The Ted version of Man Thing is like this nice, easygoing, good guy. But then because he kind of split himself into two people, and this is his dark side that
Yeah.
wants it back. Like he wants to be the main forefront now, like the mindless beast. You know.
Yeah, they're fighting for control of Man Thing himself, I think. After a few punches go back and forth, though, the good Man Thing kind of gets the upper hand, gets a good punch in, and slugs the bad Man Thing into kind of like a fiery storefront, only to quickly watch him reemerge and come back after Man Thing as the issue concludes there. And that's our cliffhanger,
And you
basically.
know, a lot happened in 18 pages. Like really.
Yeah.
Like
Because there's a backup story here as well, which is not Man Thing related as far as I know, but just another R.L. Stine comic story. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's very goosebumpy and like.
But yeah, you're 100% correct. Like as far as the Man Thing part of the story goes, like you got an origin story, you got what's happening as far as his setting, where he's at, and what he's doing, and then you kind of got some hints about where this is headed and what his big conflict is going to be, because it feels like he wants to keep his wits about him, and either the swamp is trying to get him back as a protector or something like that, because that just doing a little bit of research before we went on here, it seems like if he's away from the swamp for too long, like that's not good. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Maybe that's what this is. Maybe that's what this other thing is, and which is pretty cool.
Yeah,
I
like
mean,
the swamp trying to call him back, and him trying to keep his basically, his manhood about him. He's trying to hold on to his person. I can't think of the word I'm trying to look for. His spirit as a person. He's trying to hold on to.
Yeah,
and
he's
the
trying to
swamp's
hold on
trying
to
to
his
just make him this mindless beast.
and his faculties. Like he wants to be Ted, even though he's Man Thing.
Yeah.
He upstairs
Right.
he wants to be Ted, and he doesn't want to let that go.
Yeah, it's a very Swamp Thing-esque mental battle he's fighting here, and I like that. It was super interesting so far. And before we give you our bye, borrow, forget it all together, I do want to talk about this backup story because it's pretty cool as well.
Yeah, it's pretty damn good. I like it a lot.
Yeah, so it's
I
called.
wasn't expecting it either, so it was a nice
me either. When I got to the backup story, I'm like, I don't know what this is. I'm going to put the book down, and then I ended up going back to it, and I'm like, man, that was pretty kind of worth it for a few page story.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, it's called Put a Ring on It. It's written by R.L. Stine. Artist is Daniel Johnson and Matt Lopes, taking care of the art and the backup section here. And basically, I'll just give you a quick rundown because it's a very short story.
Yeah, it's like 4 pages, right?
Yeah, it goes very fast too. Daniel is basically, I guess, a pianist, right? He's a concert pianist, I guess.
Yep, concert pianist. Yep.
That is taken out to sea by a rich girlfriend that he's kind of swayed to fall in love with him. Yeah, her name's Ashley, spelled weird.
Yeah, it's really weird.
What appears to be kind of like a normal date between the two people in love kind of quickly turns dark when Daniel reveals his true intentions of being invited out to sea. And that is that he wants this ring that is on Ashley, spelled weird's finger.
Because there's like a history to this ring that he knows about.
Yeah, he's researched and understands what this ring is. So he's positioned himself to have Ashley fall in love with him so he can, we find out he wants possession of this ring. In in the middle of one of the pages, we get kind of a quick breakdown of what the ring does, history lesson of it. It's basically like a monkey paw type thing. It chooses the user that it wants, basically. And if it's somebody that it's chosen, it grants basically good luck. And if it's somebody that's kind of stolen it or used it in bad ways, I guess what I get is that it grants bad luck to you.
You know what the funny thing is about this is that, well, I guess we can get to that later, but we'll just keep going about the ring. Because I was going to say, like, the ring is cursed overall because of the end result anyway, right?
Yeah, yeah. Technically, you could be. Yeah. I just said 48 times. I'm agreeing with you. I don't want to go. I want to finish the story before I say what I'm going to say, I guess, So those are what seem to be the rules at this point. Anyway, the captain comes downstairs, kind of warns the two lovebirds the seas are going to be rough, that they should kind of go ashore. Daniel suggests they should kind of tough it out, and it would be romantic to spend a stormy night at seas.
Seizing an opportunity for his ulterior motive.
Right. Daniel and Ashley, they kind of get drunk together off champagne, and then Daniel goes ham on her face with the champagne bottle. And then he throws her overboard to cover any evidence.
Basically. I mean, it has a whole thing where it basically just has a banner that tells it took weeks for him to like get her to fess up about the legend of the ring.
Yeah.
And then when it finally does, they get to that storm, and he freaking bashes her with a champagne bottle and forces her overboard, which was like a good plan for him, I guess, because they were on the water in that rough seas. They were drunk. Nobody's not going to believe she didn't go out there and fall over,
Yep. So anyway, after briefly trying to test his skills out with this new ring on, he's like, "Oh, I'm playing better already." He just goes to bed with the idea to hide this ring until the police investigation is over. But he like puts it under his pillow, Tooth Fairy style, like to keep it close by. Wakes up in the morning and decides that he wants to try this ring on one more time before he really stashes it away for good. And then he wakes up to find out he has no fingers.
It was great. And the narration went so well, where it's like, the next morning, Daniel wakes up with an overwhelming urge to try the ring for just a few seconds, but it appears that he didn't choose him. And then he's like, "My fingers!"
Yeah, he's got two stumps. He's got his hands, just no fingers.
Yeah, I mean, this is like
thumbs,
such
no
classic,
fingers,
like
no nothing.
Alfred Hitchcock, like Goosebumps, R.L. stuff. Like, it's so perfect. Like, I love it.
Yeah,
I love this.
It's a cool little story. Yep. So you know how we do things here, guys. We tell you to buy it, to borrow it, or to forget it altogether. As far as both stories go, backup and main story, this would definitely kind of be a buy book for me. I would suggest any horror comedy fans, which sounds like a weird thing to say, would like this book. There's funny parts, there's good art, there's interesting twists that we pretty much spoiled all of, but if you read along and then listen to the review, you probably agree with those three things there. I'm trying to think of that movie back in the day, not too far long ago, where there was an alien invasion and everybody was like turning into slugs. What was that movie?
Turning into slugs?
Shit.
Man, doesn't ring any bells though.
Really? Slither.
Oh, Slither, the one with what's his name from friggin' Firefly.
That guy from that thing,
He's from that TV show that's very popular, where he's like a writer and his partner.
Yeah, I honestly don't remember anybody that's in it off the top of my head, and I'm not going to look it up because I don't care that much, but it's kind of like a comedy horror movie like that.
Nathan Fillion, that's his name.
Yeah, so I would make it a buy for me personally, and I look forward to issue 2. And we'll definitely throw issue 2 up on the vote when it hops along, and then hopefully you guys agree with us, and we can maybe cover this book from start to finish, because it's just a mini series. I think 4 or 5 issues. So what was your opinion? I'd pretty much gushing about it. I like it a lot. There's not really anything I hated. I would tell you to buy it. So you go ahead.
All right. Well, I'll start saying that I wasn't too excited for this book. I was a little down on the fact that we had to read it, but the thing is, I always was a huge R.L. Stine fan when I was a kid. I always loved Goosebumps, but I wasn't interested in it. But the fact that it got chosen in the vote forced me to read it, and I loved it. I loved it right away. I love the backup. I hope there's more backups with that all like little different horror stories like this.
Yeah.
And it was fantastic. The art was great in the main issue. It was good in the backup. The writing was on point. I love the narration. I love every single thing about this book. It's a total buy for me. I highly recommend it. It's only going to be 5 issues, and it's sad because I almost wish it was an ongoing.
Yeah. Well, I feel like this is a good choice because Marvel makes every strange book an ongoing, and then it makes it end up looking bad when it's, canceled 5 or 6 issues in, like Prowler, for example.
And now it's something
when if you just come out and say if it's, like when you just come out and say it's a miniseries and it's one story that you can follow and you don't have to have, a whole future investment to, dread basically what's Marvel going to price this issue at when it hits 10 and all that disaster you got to deal with. I think that this is just a good choice if you're looking, you've been down on Marvel lately and you're just looking for a good story to follow.
It's very refreshing.
And I was personally a Goosebumps fan when I was a kid. We talked about it a little bit before we hit record here, but that was one of the main reasons that I had big interest in the book was R.L. Stine was given a shot to comics. He might have done some stuff before, but this was just impressive for somebody that isn't consistently a comic writer.
Yeah, it really was.
Usually people come in, novel writers or short story writers and take a while maybe to get in the groove, but it feels like this is kind of a natural extension for him and it worked very well as a result.
And he didn't it was almost written like a book because it had a lot of narration and because the narration wasn't inner dialogue, like if you took the narration and you took the speech bubbles and you arranged it in a certain way, like it would be a book, but it translates so well. And you got to give it to what's his name, German Peralta, because the art it conveys everything he's trying to say. I mean, it's beautiful. It's just so well done. So well done.
Yeah,
Bravo,
I like that a lot. Yeah, that was a good book. I feel like we haven't, this might have been really not the first book we've suggested to buy together, but the first one that we were really super, super positive about. Because this was the 10th one I think we've done together. I got it marked. And I think this is the book we've been most positive about in those 10 that we've recorded together. You know what I'm saying?
I think it's the best book that we've done so far too.
Yeah. It's just cool to read. So we'll stop giving this book a BJ and we'll end it there. So go buy it. What we might do too, if you guys vote for it, and we'll have some more fun. Hopefully, I'm interested in where this goes.
I think it's a good thing because you got one person who was excited for it and they liked it, and then you got one person who was not excited for it by any means and they loved it too. Right. So you get 2 sides of the coin here, and both people loved it. I mean, that has to say something,
right? Yeah. So. Yep, that's it for us, guys. But if you're looking for us at all through the week, Marvel Minute Vote. I can't talk today. This morning has been rough. Marvel Minute Votes usually go up on Mondays while I'm DJing, so we'll have that up tomorrow. Look for that to vote for the book for next week. You can find me on Twitter at bmur, MUR3660. Trevitt, where can they find you, man?
You can find me on Twitter at Afronaddict and on Instagram at Trevitt's Comics.
Yep. And if you don't like to follow me, Trevitt also retweets the vote. So follow one of us so you can vote on what's going on. And G-Man, please download the regular Twitter app so you can vote in the contest, man. I don't know what the problem is with Tweetbot, but
I don't even know what Tweetbot is.
It doesn't work with the polls, I guess. it for us, guys. Party's over on this end. You guys have a good week. Holler at us if you're looking for us. Adios.
Peace.